earlier in the day. For a better estimate of the time of death, Dr. Doberson decided to analyze the undigested food in Boggs' stomach.
So if we could find out where he ate and at what time he ate, we could really narrow down the time of death.
In retracing Boggs' steps on the day of the murder, investigators learned that Jerry opened the hardware store at 10 o'clock as he did every morning. He worked for a while, then walked 2 doors down to the shack for breakfast. There he ordered the same meal he always did: eggs, toast, and hash brown potatoes.
Usual?
Yes, indeed.
The folks in the cafe said, oh yeah, he stopped by here and had his usual.
To see if breakfast was Boggs' last meal, investigators turned to scientists at the University of Colorado.
We've done the same thing with woolly mammoths frozen in the ice in Siberia and Alaska, identified what plants they were eating.
David Norris, an endocrinologist at the University of Colorado, and his colleague, forensic botanist Jane Bach, were asked to examine Boggs' stomach contents. Basically, humans consume between 50 and 75 different types of plants in their diet. Plants are easier to distinguish in the stomach than animal products.
The cell walls themselves remain intact, and they'll pass entirely through the digestive system. This makes identification quite easy. It doesn't make any difference whether the material was frozen, whether it was boiled. It will remain virtually indestructible.
Dr. Norris placed a sample of Boggs' stomach contents on a slide. Under his microscope, Dr. Norris saw a jumble of irregular hexagons. He recognized them as the intact cells of either potato or apple. Both had nearly identical cell structures. To determine which one, Dr. Norris used potassium iodide, a test for the presence of starch.
A drop of it is added to the material on the slide, and if starch is present, it will turn black.
Under a microscope, the cells turned black, which confirmed the presence of starch. The cells were from potatoes. Since Jerry ate hash browns on the day he was murdered, the presence of potatoes seemed to indicate breakfast was his last meal. Or was it?
In addition to the potato cells, I also saw cells of onions. And these are relatively easy to identify because of the brick-like shape of the cells and the way they're put together, kind of like looking at a brick wall.
The short-order cook at the diner insisted he never put onions in the eggs or the hash brown potatoes.
So we thought, well, this is a worry. Maybe he did have another later meal.
Another meal meant that Boggs was killed after dinner. The prime suspect, his ex-wife Jill Coit, had an airtight alibi for that night. She was camping in a state park on the night of Boggs' murder. But in order to completely eliminate her as a suspect, investigators needed to be sure Boggs was killed at night and not earlier in the day. Boggs' murder presumably happened at night after dinner, since onions were discovered in his stomach. The cooks at the shack insisted they didn't put onions in Boggs' breakfast on the morning of his death. One of Steamboat's homicide investigators decided to take a closer look.
Not to be deterred, he took himself down there and stood in the kitchen and watched them making breakfast one morning.
The cook prepared the same breakfast Jerry Boggs always ate. True to his word, the cook did not add onions to the hash browns he threw on the grill. But while watching the grill, homicide investigators saw a flurry of activity that suddenly explained everything. Every time the cook turned an omelet or scattered an order of hash browns, small portions of diced onions from other orders would get mixed in.
I believe he photographed the spatula that was used to flip the eggs to grill the hash brown potatoes. And the edge of the spatula is covered with bits of onion.
You don't know when you're getting the food at the other end what's going on the grill.
Breakfast had, in fact, been Jerry Boggs' last meal.
We felt vindicated, we felt very good about that because we knew they were there.
Boggs was killed just a few hours after breakfast. Jill Coit did not have an alibi for the afternoon of Boggs' death.